Jacob cusses because of me. I cuss and I swear a lot.
Or
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay.
let's think about this.
Well, what are you?
But sometimes
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Now I'm going to amp up the competition. But not only am I going to amp up the competition, I'm going to take the friendliness out of it too.
that's right. Got a question for you, Jacqueline. Boss or bitch?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay.
Let's think about this.
Well, what are you?
Boss. But sometimes bitch.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Before I can even answer that, I need you to define, how do you know what the difference is when you're being one or the other?
It's kind of hard to define. But I mean,
Okay.
I think that when you're a boss, you're taking care of business.
Yeah.
You are outsmarting, outplaying, outpowering. You're taking over, you're taking control. When I see and hear bitch, it's meant to be derogatory, right?
Yes.
But when I think about being a bitch, it's like taking that back. So when somebody throws that connotation or they make you feel that way, to me, it's like, okay, you just upped my level of competition. So I'm going to go out and beat you at whatever the game is.
Okay.
And that's when I become a bitch and I go after you.
Okay, so for you then, what you're saying is bitch is more of a, now I'm going to amp up the competition, but not only am I going to amp up the competition, I'm going to take the friendliness out of it too.
That's right.
Yes, I love that. Okay. Boss, most of the time, I feel like I'm in my element. But when somebody, I guess, kind of like intentionally provokes us, I think that behavior does come out where it does become very competitive,
Yes.
but also removing the layer of nicety.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so so when we think of that and we look back at what's happened to us, I don't think that I've ever been called flat out a bitch to my face.
I have.
Seriously?
Seriously, yes. Every time I've been called that, I'd have to say that I can think of off the top of my head has been by a man.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, let's hear about this.
Well, the very first time that it happened to me, I remember I was like in my very early 20s, and my girlfriend was going through kind of like a separation, and finally she had the guts, and I mean the guts, because she was a doormat for this individual. And she finally had the guts to leave this person. And I had my own place. I was a single mom at the time. And I said, well, why don't you come stay here until you can figure out what you want to do? Because also, think about it. I mean, how many times have you heard this scenario? She had no money in her name.
Yes.
She had no vehicles, no accounts. Like everything was in the husband's name. So she had really nothing, you know? So she came to my house with her 2 children and they were staying there. Well, one of her friends that didn't agree with her leaving her husband, told him where she was staying at because she knew that she was staying at my house. So the guy came to my house, keyed my brand new car.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I was like, my Acura. Keyed my brand new car, and he called me a bitch. He was like, you're just a single mother bitch that wants all these other
Oh my
moms to
gosh.
leave their husbands just like you. And to me, I thought about that, like, how is that even in the
Did you just
same
say that?
scenario? Like my situation is so different than what your situation is, you know? And it's like, how can that even be in the same conversation here? But even that you're even looking at, instead of saying, why is my wife leaving me? You're saying, why is this bitch supporting her?
Gosh, I can't believe that was the first thought. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that for me was my first time being called that. I've been called that in business. And it was like, you're a meddling bitch. You're a self-righteous bitch, I've been called. I've been called a perfectionist bitch. I'm like, I kind of like
I'll
that
take
one.
that one.
I like that one, yeah. I've been called a lot of names, but again, by men, you know.
And don't you think that when we take that power back from being called that, we take that stigma away, we own it, that just like changes the game?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And I just remember a lot of times we get the stigma of women are emotional. And I think for me, what was kind of like a different element for me and that people kind of underestimated was I was raised by a single dad. So being raised by a single dad and then also my grandfather, and I spent a lot of time with him. So it's like I have always been in male energy, you know, and so I'm like, okay, well, you're calling me a name, but I learned how to compartmentalize things instead of addressing things in an emotional way. So I think that really helped me as I was coming up in business and then in family and different things, you know, family or what do you call it? Love relationships too. But I have to say, even in love relationships, I've been called a heartless bitch because they say that I don't have emotion toward it, but it's not having emotion. It's just like I can't address things in an emotional manner, or I can't address things when I'm upset and emotional, you know?
So you try not to do that.
Yeah. But it compartmentalizing, I guess, you know?
And do you think that that's a strength or a weakness for you?
I think it's a strength for sure, but I think from the person receiving it sees it as a bitch. Yeah. Because I'm not engaging in the confrontation in the way they expect me as a woman to engage in it.
And I mean, I guess we're talking a lot about how we perceive the word, what we think about it, what we've done with it in our lives. But what do you think the general consensus is out there by the male who's throwing this term around, who's launching at us, who's taking that overt action? You know, I think this is mainly comes from, you know, when we've outplayed them, we've outproduced them, we've won. And they don't know how to handle it.
I have to say, I think the word is very commercialized, number one.
True.
Very, very commercialized. I mean, it's in movies, it's on social media. People just throw it around and it's so, I mean, kind of desensitizing, right?
But it's definitely coming from a bad place.
No, for
like
sure.
100%.
100% coming from a bad place. And when you think about it, whenever I just shared stories of how many times I've been called it, and it has never been in a good way.
Right.
And then you have some women like on our social media, how they're calling us bad bitches because everything that we are doing with the podcast and Club Conduit, you know, and it's like, so it is very commercialized. And I think the element of what it actually means and what it's actually been used for has kind of been taken out or softened in a sense, but it still means what it means.
Yeah. Even looking at, I was seeing the other day, there was a whole campaign. I don't know if you remember this. The Girl Scout leader, the national leader, had written a book about little girls being called bossy. And her line was, and what she wanted little girls to know was, I'm not bossy. I have leadership skills.
Ooh, yes.
And so there was a whole campaign about not being bossy, about being a leader. And Beyonce even came on, you know, and she was like, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss.
Yes.
And so I think it's like
that.
These movements that are taking out the stigma and taking that power back, that are just transcending, you know, time and going to see the younger generation so that they see that, hey, we can own this too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think because we have to take away, because there are all the sensationalization of this word.
Yeah.
And we've got all the movies that are out that have been out for umpteen years.
Yes.
You know, we've got Clueless. We've got the Mean Girls.
Yeah. I really, when you think about the Mean Girls in the movie and how it really set the tone and it, you know, it made it normal. It normalized being a mean girl, you know?
Not even normalized. It didn't villainize the mean
Yes!
girls. They weren't the villain.
It didn't villainize.
They were like immortalized.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and so when you think about that, it's like, okay, mean girl myth. What is the mean girl myth? Like for you, when you think of the mean girl myth, you brought up the movie. What are you thinking? Because even within that statement, you think about women that come after other women too. Is that a mean girl?
Yeah, well, I think the mean girl myth is that you have to be mean to get ahead. You have to be mean to get what you want. But we're not being mean. At least not what we're talking about here. Now, are other girls mean? Are they catty? What have we dealt with in that regard? Have we had good, situations with that? Have we had a different situation where we're being dealt with properly by another woman and it's been like wonderful, or they've pushed you to do better?
Oh, okay. So that brings me to a thought. You were in a sorority. Is there a code of conduct when you're in the sorority of how you need to be treating your fellow sister?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that, because I feel like there needs to be a code of conduct when women are dealing with each other, and then also busting the myth of mean girl.
Yeah, absolutely. When you enter a sorority, you are becoming a sister. You are tied to that person just like they are your real sister in real life. You are taking oaths. You are doing rituals together, and you are just stating that you will foster that friendship. You will help that other woman. You will be there, and it's a lifetime commitment.
Yes.
And you take that oath seriously.
I know, because you tell me every now and then, you're like, I'm going to dinner with a sorority sister. And I'm like one that actually went to your sorority? And you're like, no, we have like these chapters all over the place. I can go to any city and I have a sisterhood, and I look at that. That's such an amazing experience. But only if you go to a college and you enter a sorority are you actually getting that sisterhood experience. How can we provide that, just as viewers, as baddies that are watching this podcast, how can we create that sisterhood, that lifeline, that support, that is a part of that sisterhood?
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do with the podcast.
Yeah.
And the way I want to do it is to engage with viewers, because this isn't about us, you and I.
No.
This is about a much bigger movement of all the baddies out there who are doing it all, who are screwing up and feeling like, I can't do this. And we want to say, we're screwing up too. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we want to have those conversations and to be able to provide resources and to be able to provide tools so that they can accomplish whatever it is they want, and without judgment. And that's like one of the bigger things I think between women,
Yes.
and that's where the cattiness, the judgment comes in, in the whole mean girl myth and all of that. And those are the things we want to like
Catalyze.
Yeah, exactly. Like put a stop to.
No, well, I was going to ask you, so you're in being a lawyer and starting your own law firm, but also working for other law firms. You had mentioned prior that a lot of it was with other men, not a lot of women in that industry where you were at, right?
Yes, but I've also had interactions with female lawyers, obviously. Yeah. And I have a really cool one that I want to talk about. It's so neat. So I, as a young lawyer, I was doing this huge deposition of a corporate representative of a major trucking company. I'm talking about a national trucking company. This person was the top, 2 person in the company, and gets interviewed and deposed by people all over the country.
Wow.
And so it was a big deal.
Amber, Lady Law Amber's on the case. Okay.
This was way before I was Lady Law Amber. But I was preparing for days, going through all my hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents, preparing for this. And he had a female lawyer who was representing him, and I knew her very well because we worked on many cases. And if we were talking about whether she was a boss or a bitch, she would have definitely been called by some people a bitch.
Okay.
And so I knew that she was going to be on her toes and she was going to be after me, and I better be prepared. And she was also 20 years my senior.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And today she is a court of appeals judge. She is
oh my gosh. Okay.
So we go to the deposition, and for some odd reason, usually you're sitting across from your adversary. But on this day, we happen to be sitting next to each other, which was odd.
Nice.
And so her client, so when I'm asking the questions of her client, she is not supposed to speak to her client because that would be labeled, unethical, and you're coaching your client.
Yes, okay.
And this and that. So I was asking the question, and then she would respond, now, don't say that. And then I asked another question, and then she said, gave another comment, and I said, Miss Alvarez, do not coach your client. And she said, okay. And then she did it again, and I said, Miss Alvarez, do we have to get the judge on the line?
Uh-oh.
And then I just kept escalating until finally I said, we're calling this deposition, and you're going to pay for all of my fees associated, and I'm going to take you to court and compel sanctions if you don't stop right now.
Okay. And then what happened?
What happened
Did she
next
stop?
is that she stopped.
Okay, good.
She looked at me, winked, and whispered, brownie points.
Brownie
Points.
Love it.
That was such a cool moment because it was like a mentor who was like saying like, you got it.
Yeah.
You got this. You can't let anybody, take you out like that.
Yeah.
You stick up for yourself. You be smart. You do what you have to do. You have that audacity. You got this, girl.
Okay, hold on. So I got to peel this back a little bit. When she said that to you, what was your reaction to her? Because I think that's the important
like
part
my
too.
physical, I
Yeah.
wanted to grin.
Ah, okay.
I wanted to grin, but I just gave a little light smile and said,
Okay, because you know what? I feel like in that moment, there are some people that could have gone a different way with that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
of course, I know I have brownie points, or, like had that cocky ego. But
oh,
you
yeah, I've
saw-
had that. I've had a male counterpart call me out and say, all right, let's get the judge on the phone. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's go. And then we shut down the deposition and we go get the judge on the phone and deal with it there. But that was just such a beautiful moment. And I think that's when I realized, like, even though we're adversaries, there's no reason for competition, cattiness. We can still support each other, and it is collaboration.
Yeah. I love that. When you talk about that, it reminds me of like, you can almost see the guard coming down when you respond to somebody in a way that is graceful, in that way that, hey, I'm here to win, but you're not my competition.
Well, appreciating someone's intelligence.
Yes.
Their strategic, plays, everything like that, because that's really what comes in when we're a lawyer, where everything's about strategy, analysis, how we play it, the wit that comes in, the exact thing you're going to say. And no matter how much you plan it out, things happen.
Yeah.
But it was just so refreshing and eye-opening to see that your adversary can really appreciate what you're doing. And it's okay to appreciate it.
Yes. Well, I want to ask you, when you were running for state representative, you had done
I was already
political-
a party chair for the entire county before I'd done that for almost 7 years.
So one thing that I think is so like badass and really important to acknowledge is that you did that as a single mom for 7 years. So for 7 years, you held a public office official
Yes.
position, right?
Yes.
For 7 years. And then that is what kind of led
Well, it was
you.
almost 7 years. I guess technically there was maybe a year while I was
7
getting divorced,
years.
but yes. Yes.
Okay. And then it, kind of transitioned into your role of running for state representative. In those positions, I mean, you're talking about major leadership positions
Yes.
where a lot of adversity can be put in there, and you can be put as a position as a boss or a bitch. Did people see you as a boss or a bitch in those positions?
Well, I would say it's mixed.
Like,
The
you've
thing
never
about-
been called a boss or a bitch. I mean,
Not
never
to
been
my
called
face.
a bitch.
Right.
But the feeling is there.
Oh, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
felt it. I have felt both sides of the gamut on that.
Yeah.
And with politics, anything with politics, you're going to have your lovers and your supporters. They're loyal. They're there. You're that boss babe. You're doing it. We believe in you. We're coming to every event. We got your back. And then you have the other side of that. And those are the ones that are going to do anything to take you down. They're going to lie about you. They're going to put false press out there. You're going to, and try to make you feel bad about what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I was raised by my mom to be very independent. And so my mom was, she wasn't a single mom. She was married to my father until I was 18, and then they got divorced. But she was a stay-at-home mom, and while my dad went out and worked, he was a blue-collar worker. He worked for the railroad. We were low to middle-class income. But he was an alcoholic. And so it was difficult for her. But she felt, just as what you talked about earlier, these women who are put in a situation where they don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And that's how she was, that's how it was for her. And so she always told me, Amber, you get out there, you get your education, you be independent. You never be dependent on a man. And so that was really my drive,
I love that. Amber, you are so amazing at your story and where where you came from, and then just being so transparent with that, especially being a, public official and being able to be transparent with your background and all of that. It also brings me to being a single mom. I think single moms are also seen very heavily as bitches,
Oh yeah.
especially by the ex-husband or
Yeah.
by people that are trying to take advantage of you being a single mom, and it's like there are certain decisions like what you just said about your mom. Your mom, even though having somebody in the home was like having nobody in the home, and
Yes.
probably even worse because you can't make those decisions because you still have this individual there that is a part of the family structure and decision making.
Right.
And I definitely see that so many times with women that are single moms. That's a story that's close to my heart because I was a single mom for a big part of my kids' lives.
Yeah, definitely.
And that does change you as a person, like changes your very DNA in a sense because you have to be decision maker. You have to run other people's lives and making sure that how you're living your life is also going to benefit them.
Yeah, you have to be every single thing all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to carry, I mean, to me, the single moms are like superpowers. Like they should be the the goddess, the queen, the all, end all be all, because they're doing it all in real life, in real time, without help most of the time. And it's not easy, I mean, I was lucky enough to be in a position where I wasn't like my mom,
Yeah.
but a lot of people are, and that's hard.
No, it really is. Especially, you look at so many women that have amazing talent, amazing aspirations, but a lot of the times they don't have equal financial help, on the other end with the other parent too, and that's like a big, big deal. And it's so interesting. Me and my honey were talking about it, and I was like, I just have this huge stigma or just thing against people that, with the financial support with kids, because that is setting your children up for success, and
Yes.
not being able to have that can turn a woman bitchy.
Yes, it can, and it should, like you said, like
Yeah.
it's in all seriousness, it should. It's not fair to the child or the mom.
Yeah.
And that's like my point in saying, like, the mom has such the unfair advantage most of the time. And I don't want to detract from any men who are taking care of their children and they're the primary caregivers and anything like that. If you're being the mom and dad, then kudos to you too. But
Yeah.
as we know, in many situations, that's not the case.
Yeah, because I mean, not being biased in that way, because I was raised by a single dad. So
True.
I definitely know that end of the spectrum as well. I lived through it. So, but again, the financial support wasn't there even for my father. And what's the conversation to that? Should the woman pay child support to a man?
Yes, if they're not raising the child, I think.
Yes, right? Well, the answer is yes. But then on that end, being raised by a single dad, I mean, he was the sole provider. So what does that mean for the child,
Yeah, true.
So, and I think that's also on the flip side when a woman is a single mom and she's having to be the sole provider, the income is necessary. So when you talk about your run as state representative, that, obviously you got a lot of haters, I'm sure.
Yes.
When did you feel like competition from women were not your competition?
Say that again.
When was a point that you felt like women were not your competition, I guess?
I mean, during my political days, I really felt like, for the most part, women were on board. And because a lot of that time, it was really when women were really getting involved in politics. I was a little before that,
Okay.
but during probably the height of my political career, there were a lot of women involved in politics. And it really was that whole let's do this movement. Women need to be involved in politics. And so that was really good. But it was more so like on the back end. So really like social media, you would get the attacks on there. Oh, you're just a puppet for this man, and So to be fair, I was starting out, I moved to Texas. I grew up in Oklahoma. I moved to Texas like 23 years ago or something like that. I started a legal career in a city that I'd never lived, in a state I'd never really lived for any lengthy period of time. I was able to build this law firm, political career from the get-go. And I just made connections with people, and it kept growing. But you know, there were many things said about me. One, I was a puppet. I was speaking for some man, and it had nothing who was the godfather of the county, and I wasn't doing, you know, my own thing. It had nothing to do with my feelings. Called a bitch, called a liar, all of these things. And you know, it's not easy. And when you run for political office, you have to have a hard backbone. You know, you really, really do, because you're taking a lot of flack.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were nights when I would go to sleep crying because it was difficult. You know, it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, whatever. We know they're lying. I mean, I knew they were lying, but one, I can't attack back because you can't feed into the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it just wasn't, it wasn't kosher for me to address it. Didn't rise to the level for me to address it. To address it would have been wrong. It just would have been dumb.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's not
hurtful.
Not hurtful or easy to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were lots of nights where I was like at home by myself, crying in bed, having a glass of wine, like just going like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? Why did I get myself into this?
You were whining it all out.
I was very whiny. And so, but at the end of the day, you know, for me, it was all for a bigger cause.
Yeah.
And it meant something to be able to speak for people and to speak on things that were good and good moves for people, and to be able to make a difference. And that's what was always in it for me. So I had to look beyond, you know, what was happening to me personally and say, I can do this. I can get above this. It's okay. And I'll be okay. And I wanted my daughters to see that also.
Now, I know our topic is about mean girl myth and boss or bitch, but everything that you just said there, curiosity, right? Curiosity killed the cat all the time. But for me, curiosity is what happened, I guess, in your childhood or in your past that made you say that you had to stand up for people, to be a political figure or be an attorney, that you wanted to be the advocator for people? Because being an attorney and being a political figure, that's an advocator for people. So what happened to you that triggered that, or this person?
I don't know that it was any one particular thing. I really don't. I just think that the way that my mom raised me to be so independent,
Mm-hmm.
and like telling you, like my family, we're American Indian, like we grew up with storytelling in our blood, I feel like.
Yes.
And it's just something that is just ingrained in us and like who we are. I think that it just felt good for me to do that for other people. And I was always, you know, interested in law and politics. And honestly, I think it was the competition of things too, because I remember like at a very early age, specifically third grade, I stood up in class.
Specifically third grade in January. No.
In Miss Akerd's class. And they asked everybody what they wanted to be. And, you know, like I said, I came from very humble beginnings. There was nobody who was a lawyer. I was the first person to go to college in my family. But I stood up and said I wanted to be an attorney. And I really don't know exactly why, other than my love of, like I said, politics. And I had this little nemesis in my third grade class, and he and I were in competition because our teacher gave a prize out at the very end of each week for the person who got the most A's.
Ooh, love it.
And he was super on the other political spectrum from me, and he already hated me for that. And he thought that boys would always be smarter than girls.
Oh my gosh, third grade politics?
Third grade.
What is happening?
Politics, competition, it went down.
Okay.
So he and I were competing.
This is what Oklahoma schools are teaching?
Yeah. every week we were competing, and every week that I would beat him, he would get so angry and throw a tantrum. And
Oh,
I
you got to
loved
do it more.
I loved it. Yes. So it just fueled me. But, I don't really know, going back to your original question, I don't know that there was a story or a point that really led me other than the way my mom raised me, the environment I grew up in, just being from that blue collar family
Yeah.
and knowing how important certain things were, like unions and speaking out for, workforce and people who need, to be spoken out for, and being
Yeah.
involved and seeing those things.
Maybe it was the American Indian side though too,
Yeah,
because there's a
definitely.
lot of things that American Indians aren't able to have certain things come to light for them.
Oh, definitely. And
Yeah.
I majored in Native American studies as well, so that's what my bachelor's degree is in. So I know all of the history, the genocide, all of those things. At one point, I actually thought I wanted to be an Indian law lawyer.
Wow.
But yeah, definitely those things drove me. They made me see the things in life that weren't right, just all the discrimination as well, and made me want to be an advocate. I'd rather be
Absolutely.
a part of the solution than a part of the problem. And so,
Or the part of the doing nothing.
yes, exactly.
There's a lot of doing nothing
Yes.
people out there, and you were not one of those. Okay, so going back to boss or bitch, the one thing that I can say I see a lot of is even individuals that get really upset at you or at me personally for being a bitch or labeled as a bitch, or even that feeling of being a bitch, is because you're running circles around people, you're
Yes.
outperforming people, you're out ideaing people, solutionizing, like none of those are real words, but but
They are now.
they are today, baddies. But in all reality, like, they get upset because of that. Have you had an experience with where somebody got mad because you were outworking them, or out?
Well, let me ask you this, because when you see that, what do you do to change that? Do you feed into that? Do you flip the script? What do you do when that happens to you? How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'd have to say I only focus on the real competition, and that real competition is myself. How can I outbeat myself from the last accomplishment that I've, created? And that's always been the only person that I've ever competed with. I'm really hard on myself, I guess, in that sense.
You don't compete?
I compete, yes.
I find this
no.
hard
I
to believe.
I compete. But I'm saying on a daily basis,
Right.
it's hard because honestly, who is in your life right now that you're actually a fair competition with,
Yeah.
So that's hard. That's not an everyday occurrence, but an everyday occurrence is competition with myself.
Right.
And that is an ongoing thing, ongoing battle, right? And I think for me, I'm so focused on outdoing myself from the last time, and that when somebody does bring it to my attention by their actions and the way that they treat me, like I'm trying to outperform them. I know I told you about a story. There was a guy that I was working with, this gentleman, let's call him Adam.
Okay.
This Adam guy. There was nepotism as well, because he was the son of the person that brought me onto this major project, right? And in and of itself, this Adam gentleman felt that he had to somehow sabotage me because I was outworking him. I was outperforming. And it wasn't that I was outperforming, but I think you and I are a lot alike. Sometimes we'll be laying in bed and like still working. Like, I don't ever put my work down, which could be bad, I guess. but
That's another episode.
that's another episode. But I'm constantly trying to figure out solutions, and in doing so, what I didn't realize was Adam was going to Dad, and in Dad's ear was slowly sabotaging my work and dropping, oh, well, she didn't do this, or she didn't do this, and she didn't do that. I didn't realize it at the time, but I would.
And those were lies.
Yeah, they were lies. So then I was pulled into meetings and I'm like being addressed certain things and I'm like, where is this coming from? Like,
Right.
and I would say, oh no, Adam and I both did this. And I let Adam take the lead because he asked me to let him take the lead because he wanted to prove to his dad that he could do certain things.
Supposedly.
So I would let him take the lead on things, but now in hindsight, I see what he was doing was showing the dad, look, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And she's doing, what is she doing? You know? And in, you know, obviously I am doing my job, right? But I'm also letting him shine and giving him the opportunity to shine, which I believe a lot of women do. And a lot of men do too. But a lot of women give people the opportunity to shine. And they're like, wow, I helped do this. I helped you get to there. Like, I want to see you shine. I want to see you.
So, Jacqueline, how did that change you going in the future? Because you got sabotaged in that moment. You were trying to be a good team player. You were working with the guy, and then he does this to you. So, how did that change your mentally and intellectually? How did you go into the future dealing with situations like that?
So I think also I think women have the most amazing human intelligence, right?
Yes.
And so now when I see certain behaviors that are like, I'm going to sabotage you, then I have to perform a different way or take certain actions that document whose role was this and whose role was that. And I take those precautions now. But back then it was just like, wow, that was interesting that you felt threatened by me because of what reason, And I think there was other lying issues there, obviously, between father and son. But
sure. At the end of the day, did you take that? Like, to me, that's like, ooh, you won. You know what I mean? Did you see that as a win? Obviously, you didn't in the beginning.
No, I saw that as a sucker punch.
Yeah.
Like, you're the son of the guy. Like, you're going to have his ear more than I would, So I was like, that is so sucker punch. Like, you want to compete with me? Let's go toe to toe. Don't compete with me while you're like sabotaging me. It kind of felt like.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yes. I kind of felt like, have you ever seen Gladiator, right?
Yes.
Where the guy's like, I'm going to go toe to toe with you. But he stabs him in the side as they get up to the arena. So the guy's wounded and then he still beats him, and it's like, that was not a fair fight. And that's what I felt like in that moment. It was like, go toe to toe with me and then let's compete. Why are you afraid of me? Like, that's what I felt like. But even when we talk about outperforming, I mean, how have you outperformed?
Oh my gosh, I feel like in most of the jobs that I was in where I had a boss, where I worked with other men, I was always so much more productive. Like, they're taking their hour break, walking down the hall. I'm doing my job. I'm going and interviewing witnesses. I'm, multitasking. I'm showing up prepared, in the courtroom, at trial. I'm spending all these hours outside, preparing, getting all of my evidence in order. And it's just kind of like, because they're a man, they could just like show up.
Yep.
And that was like acceptable. And that shouldn't be acceptable. And, but I'm fine putting in my work because that's what I want to do. I'm going to do everything that I can. But that shouldn't be the norm.
When we're talking about performance and value, specifically being a woman, it reminds me of a time where I gave birth to my son and got home from giving birth, got home from the hospital, and I'm jumping on the phone with my mom and asking her to come and watch my newborn.
Wait a minute. Hold on. What?
Wait. Let me get
I kind of zoned out there. I don't think I heard correctly.
To watch my newborn to go do a full-on presentation.
The same day you were...
Well, no, not the same day. How many days are you in the hospital?
2?
Yeah, overnight, I think.
Yes.
And then they're like, get out of here, you just gave birth. Yeah, so I went home after I got home, released from the hospital, and I asked my mom to come and watch my newborn son, the one that's 16 right now.
Okay.
And they said... My mom was on the phone and she just had such a hard time with that. She had a problem with it, like such a problem with it that she was like mad at me. Like, how dare you leave your newborn son to go do a meeting? And it's like, I know, how dare I, but the position that I'm in and the momentum that was happening with the business at that time, I couldn't step away, and I had to make a choice. And I'm like,
Well, I am going to say this is a little hard to hear. But
you would not do this.
I don't know. I'm not saying that, but I don't know. What fueled you to feel the need or the want? Was it just the momentum, or were there other factors?
No, there was a lot of other factors riding on it. It was, okay, so without giving too much away, but that moment was going to set the tone for me taking over a position in a company and becoming a regional vice president in the company. And it was that moment that was going to define that.
So this was a pivotal moment.
Very pivotal, but also too, in consideration to my pregnancy, I gave birth 2 weeks early. So that meeting was set, and then so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like I set this meeting after I gave birth. No, that meeting was already set.
And I certainly get that because, as women, as pregnant women, I was trying cases pregnant. I was with my first child. I was in court the day before I gave birth. I was working like the entire time. But we also feel that we didn't, and I'm sure you did at that time, because it's how I felt at that time, was that I didn't have the luxury to just be in bed rest or be home. If we were going to do that, that was going to be frowned upon. We can't take all the time off necessarily that we want. And so, yes, I was in court the very day before I had my oldest. And I remember it was hilarious because I was obviously 39 weeks pregnant.
You were there.
And we had a conference with one of the judges, and we went back in what's called chambers, which is just a fancy way to say the judge's office. And it was the other attorney, me, and the judge. And he goes, "Well, Amber," he goes, "Are you having twins?" And I said,
God, no,
"Oh my God,
not.
Judge, you don't ask a woman that." Like,
you should have said, "I'm not even pregnant."
I said, "No, I'm just giving birth tomorrow. So you're welcome. I'm here today."
You're welcome. I'm here today.
Yes, he laughed, and I've told that story in front of him many times. But, those are the things that we have to do or feel that we have to do as women that men don't have to deal with.
Well,
now, does that make us a boss or a bitch?
I think on the flip side, when you look at it, obviously a man's not giving birth. So a man can show up for his wife and child's birth and then go to work even the same day, you know, if he needed to and if he wanted to,
But would he be looked down upon for that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But why was it questioned when I did? But also the reason why this story comes to mind so quickly is because the other day I was on Instagram, obviously doing the scroll, and I saw, who did I see? Halsey. Halsey gave an interview. So in this interview, or she was giving a speech, and in this speech, she talked about a time where she was in a different country, and she was there to perform. And so sold out tickets, all this stuff. And right hours before she was supposed to go perform, she had a miscarriage. And this miscarriage, I want to paint this scene very vividly for you. So the scene is, because she talks about this in her in her speech. She says she's in the hotel room, and in the hotel room, she has her managers, and she even says they're all men, manager, her agent, like everybody, all men. And she's laying on the bed with a towel between her legs, and she just had this miscarriage in a hotel bathroom. And they are telling her, you have a sold out concert. Like, you need to clean up.
Oh my gosh.
And get out there and perform. And everything inside of her was saying, I just had a miscarriage here, people. Yeah. But she wasn't looked at as human. She was looked at as a performer and as somebody that outperforms, And in that moment, she had to make that decision, and she did. She cleaned up, and she went out there and put on a bomb concert. And nobody would have ever known that she was, just hours before that, had a miscarriage. Now, I don't even know if that's healthy to do, but that is the choice that she made. And that was like what she was saying was what is propelling her career at that time, So she said, I could have canceled, but at that moment, her career was on the rise, and she made that choice to go out there and be nonstop.
And we baddies are not here to judge at
No.
all. And, if that's what she felt in that moment, then that's what needed to be done.
But it also, to me, it's like that is a boss baddie. Because
Definitely.
I know a lot of us can sit here and judge and say, well, I wouldn't have done that, or your career isn't worth that, or whatever. But I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it's more complex when you think about the goals and you think about what you're creating for legacy and for your children and for your family and whatever else. Like, who knows what's depending on her to bring in that income. Like, I know what's depending on me to bring in an income. And those are the choices that I made, because in that moment, did I just give birth? But I'm also a mom to other children that need
Absolutely
financial support.
That's so powerful.
On the mean girl myth part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it confidence, or is it emotionally aware? Is it somebody that actually is emotionally mature,
Mm-hmm.
Think about a conversation that you've been in with anybody, man, woman, anybody. When their maturity level isn't there, what's the first thing they dig for? The first thing they dig for is
Insult,
you're
attack.
you're a bitch.
Yeah.
What can they actually call you? What can somebody actually say if it's in my workplace? What can they actually say? It's not my work. I know it's not my work.
Right.
But they can say, "Oh, well, you're just a mom, or you're just a this or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am just a mom, but I also am somebody that knows what I'm doing too when it comes to the line of work that I do. So does that make me confident? Does that make me a bitch? What does that make me?
Well, I don't think that it should make you any of that.
Right?
Just
or is
because
it just
somebody
I am?
can't compete at your level and they don't like that they take it to the attack level. But I think that's always going to happen. And that's why I think for me, it's more important what you do with it.
There's a big resemblance, definitely an ingredient. So when you think of all the women that we're surrounded with right now, a lot of the women are extremely like-minded to you and I.
Yes.
A lot of women are feeling the same things that we're feeling. So like-mindedness, right? But then when we talk about that, like centralized, concentrated intelligence, we're able to share these experiences. And then how are we overcoming them, right? With what's the confidence? What's the collaboration? All of that stuff, right? But the one ingredient that I see the most is the confidence, but it's emotional awareness, but it's also the emotional maturity as well. What I also
But how do you impress that on somebody who doesn't have it?
I don't know. I mean, to me, I feel like I do kind of like a workaround in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's bad or good, but I do a workaround, and I'm just like, okay, well, if this is the maturity level that you're at, then I'm going to have to deal with you accordingly, but then I'm also going to have to work around it in the back end over here.
Right.
How would you?
Well, I think that's where you just step up your game and you're like, okay, well, you're going there. We're just going to be in this competition and you can call me that. I'm fine with it. And I just kind of try to neutralize it, I guess you should say, and then just go forward with what I'm doing.
And then more on even the mean girl myth, think about how many friends have you actually lost? Have you lost any friends because of your ambition, because of your drive, because of your roles of leadership, and that require a different set of standards for yourself? Like, have you lost friends?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Yes.
Because they couldn't take the altitude, or
because
what?
there are people, and this is women, there are women who want to be the person who's highest and they want to look down on every other woman underneath them. And I had one person like that in my life, and she just couldn't stand to see other women succeed. And she didn't champion them. And she didn't, joy in their successes. It was always and I watched an interview with Oprah the other day, and she was saying that, for your circle, You can never have, if you see that one hint of cattiness, if you see that one hint of no support, if you see that one hint of not championing you, then walk away, because it's never going to be anything that's good for you. And what are we always saying to each other? We want to surround ourselves with other like-minded women who are supporting our joys. We're supporting theirs. We're always going to our friends' events, and people who aren't even our friends.
Yes.
If they're doing something great, we're going to their events.
To support.
And
buying their stuff.
Yes.
And posting it on social media and
yes.
promoting them. Yes. You know, I think that's a very big thing, you know, especially for us. The other thing that I think we really need to hone in on is, or should be a good sign, I guess, would be when you explain your dreams and your aspirations and what your goals and what you're trying to go for, does it make your friends around you feel like, why would you do that? You know, are they questioning? Are they thinking you're crazy? Because that's a big sign you're not in the right circle of friends, you know?
Red flag.
Yeah. And so, and that's for me is like, I'm very picky about who my friends are. I'm very picky about who I even give time to. And if I feel like it's not something that is elevating the conversations, elevating what we're trying to do together, then not that it's a waste of my time or you're not a good person, but it's just, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, I'm all these things. So I got to be very selective with where I spend my time, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and I feel like you and we hit it off so big time because we're like, okay, what do you do? What do you do? Okay, what can we do together? They were like, let's do it. And instantly, just like that, in a conversation, like that is the type of friends that we have to have. We have to surround ourselves. In one conversation, we had we went and had some appetizers, and literally in that moment, we decided we were going to do this, and we're here now, you know? Mm-hmm. How many people do you know that you could do that with? You know, how many friends are in your circle that are a part of that type of movement, you know? And I think it comes down to taking action.
Yes.
It comes down to like being obsessed with what you want to do. I mean, you and I are obsessed with what we're trying to do. We're practicing, we're getting together, we're making time for it. You know, that's obsession. But I think obsession sometimes isn't a part of the equation.
Yeah, but it's in a good way. And I think it doesn't mean that everybody in your circle wants to do what you want to do, or they want to.
No, definitely not.
Do something huge. To me, it's just the more important thing is that they're going to support you no matter what, and whatever your goals are. And I'm going to support them in their goals too. And I'm never going to look down on anything that they want to do. I'm just going to champion them.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told by friends, people that have kind of like felt in a way that they weren't going in the same direction. And it's not the same direction as far as like business or making money, but they didn't like where I was going, you know, because it made them feel smaller, or it showed them that they weren't like changing to what they could be, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's something that I never want to make somebody feel, but also I can't stop myself from growing either, you know?
Right.
So.
We definitely don't
want that. Baddies. Tell us what you guys think. Have you ever been in a situation where you were made to feel small? And did somebody ever make you feel like you were a bitch because you were outperforming, you were, outworking, you had amazing ideas and you were putting them into action? You weren't just saying these ideas and never doing anything about.
Yeah, let us know. How did you deal with that? What was the outcome? We want to hear it.
Yes. All right. Till next time, baddies. We'll see you then.
Bye, baddies.
Hey, everybody. Baddie Nation over here. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Happy holidays, everyone. Whatever you celebrate, we hope you enjoy your family. Don't eat too much food, and we hope to see you soon.
Also, just want to put it out there. If you know somebody that doesn't have family or close friends, make sure you have some empathy and you invite somebody over or even share a gift.
Absolutely. Baddies, enjoy your holidays.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here with the Andy Vasquez. What do you guys think? She did this. Go see her at Angeline DiCarlo in Southtown, right, Andy?
Yes, I'll be there.
She's the best. Y'all go see her. Bye.